And welcome back to the podcast. We're doing our second podcast for 2025. It's with Simon Kessler and my good friend Daryl Impey, former top pro. 30 pro wins, you were saying, Daryl, before we got on live. Is that correct?
That's not how I started the conversation with you. You asked me, but just now these guys are going to see, geez, you wanted a better intro than last time, so now you've come up with this one. But 30 wins, international wins. Yeah, it was some nice ones in there, and yeah, it's when I look back at it now, then you go like when I see these races coming on that I did well at, it's cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, some of that I can remember are Tour Down Under. You won there twice, right? You won stages in Tour de Suisse, Dauphiné, Tour de France. What other big victories stand out to you?
I mean, those are the big ones for sure. Those are the big ones. And then, SA Champs and a couple others that races like Basque Country, Catalonia, stages there. But yeah, there's been some good ones. But these guys they're not here to listen to me and my Palmares. They have to listen to what's going on in the show. So we're going to talk about San Remo. That's coming up. We've seen a good Paris-Nice, this last big Paris-Nice, some bad weather, both at Tirreno and Paris-Nice actually. Those races are so iffy, when you had to do those races, you're always the first thing you were just because you choose one or the other. The Paris-Nice, they say race to the sun, but it's hardly ever you're racing to the sun. And then Tirreno, everyone just thinks the weather's going to be better, but I've been to both. Both have been horrible before. Both have actually been better than the other sometimes, but this year it seemed like they had a bit of both.
It's interesting to see how some riders seem to handle the cold quite well, the freezing rain. It looked like it was 30 degrees. That's close to 0 degrees Celsius with rain. I mean, that's miserable, right? But yet some riders, their physiology, they seem to handle it fairly well, and then others just come apart. Thinking of some of the favorites for Paris-Nice like Vlasov and some of the UAE guys, they just disappeared on those cold days. Whereas, Jorgensen and the guys who were really at the forefront, they seem to handle the cold better. Do you think that is a physiological difference, or more just morale and motivation, or a combination of maybe just better preparation, better clothing? In your experience, what really gets you through those days?
Probably a bit of both. I think some guys probably still they train in the weathers they're going to race in, so maybe some guys opt for a indoor trainer on cold days, and others just brave the cold. They get used to it. Some guys are naturally just better at it, but then there's also a lot of guys that I think are just mentally so tough. It's funny because you look at the top guys, they're just always there. There's no surprises still at the top of these races, both of them. Ayuso and then Jorgensen as well. There's no a surprise winner. It's not like somebody all of a sudden just in the cold day flourish. Of course some riders prefer it, but even it's like sprinting as well. It's the same with sprinting. It's like they're just always there, right? It's like it can be a chaotic sprint and it can be nuts, but they're always in the top three. It's like why? It's because they're the best. And I still think the cream always rises to the top. They're all facing the same conditions at the end of the day. They're all there, but there's that thing of knowing you can win this race that kind of changes your mindset versus I'm a little bit off the boil here. Maybe this isn't my race. I'm not going to go all in for this. Or, just thinking about the finish line. I know I can't win versus I know I can win here. I'm prepared for it. Then you dig deep. When down under was 40 degrees hot. Didn't matter what the temperature was. It was more like we prepared for this. We've given so much to be here, so guys are ready to race.
It is amazing how much the mind plays a part in performance. It's once you have the yellow jersey on your shoulders or you've won a race, that morale that gives you an extra 5 or 10%. It's just incredible. I've experienced that myself. I remember with you as a young 18-year-old leading me out when I had the points jersey in Giro del Capo. I mean, I got dropped big time, and then the next day I won the stage, and all of a sudden I had great legs, but it really was mental. I really wasn't that fit. It was just more the mental piece I really believed, and I had you guys committed to me, and that's just a small example in a small race, but I mean, you've experienced that on a much larger scale. So I think sometimes we forget how much the mental piece plays a part in performance. We focus a little too much on the numbers, but that really does seem to separate the top guys, is the mental piece and how they can consistently stay motivated and believe in their chances, because a lot of people lose their confidence when they're not doing well, and they don't try as hard as a result.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it as well. Like guys, I mean, you say like having a jersey can give you an extra boost, but it can also be a curse. Eh? Some guys get a jersey and the next day they just got nothing. They just it's the pressure of dealing with like, oh, hold on, I'm leading this race. Can I do it again? I'm not so sure. They have the doubts. If jersey feels heavy, they get dropped, and then they have that feeling of like, well, this jersey's heavy. So yeah, the mental side of it just shows you how big a part it does play, because we've seen so many riders that are able to produce magical numbers in training, but then they get to a race, they put a number on their back and they just can't deliver, and it's super frustrating to watch, because you've seen the numbers in training and you're thinking, how can that guy with half his engine size be like dropping this guy? But it's just that mental toughness, the resilience, and all those things combined that create champions.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this past weekend, and then we'll move on to our predictions for Milan San Remo. So we had one of your favorites, your team rider, Derek G, got fourth in Tirreno. That was a great performance. We had Ayuso dominating there. Big sprint wins from Milan. Ineos representing on both races. What stood out to you on, let's start with Tirreno. What really stood out? Which riders stood out to you? Which teams looked really good to you?
Look, I mean, it's the usual teams that look good there. I mean, Trek obviously is super dominant in the sprints. You got obviously Ayuso, UAE, they're always solid. But like a standout performance for me was Ghana. I mean, like holding on to third, we were obviously thinking Derek would climb onto the podium on that final stage. They did drop Ghana, but not enough. To do what he did up there and to finish on the podium in Tirreno, I don't think a lot of people appreciate or understand how good that is for a guy his size. Ineos is clearly finding their groove again. I think they're in a little bit of they're reinventing themselves again, where they used to be stuck in a mold of just GC orientated, where they seem like they're getting more, they're winning, taking more opportunities, trying to create race dynamics. We saw that was Paris-Nice when they were, in the breakaway up the road, like three guys. They're definitely trying to win in different ways, which is exciting. But yeah, I think if I also go back and I think, a guy that's been standing out, say, in other races is Mads Pedersen, looking at San Remo. I mean, how strong was this guy?
Like, unbelievable, right?
Like guys were just in Paris-Nice, just kind of like, he was up the road and it was just, crazy what he's doing. Like, he's the only guy that can ride away because he's trying to win the green jersey. And that, you got to give credit where it's due. Like, he still comes back with the green jersey on his back, knowing that, like, he has to fight to win that bonus intermediate halfway through, because he knows he's not probably going to be there at the end. And Jorgensen Jorgensen wins, he's going to win the green jersey, but he's still got the balls to go out there and do it. You respect that. But deep down, when I was watching those kinds of things, I was thinking, he's not only doing this to win the green jersey, he's thinking, like, I'm going to empty the tank. I've got Milan San Remo. This is my final hit out. I really want to, like, show that I'm ready. And he is ready, I think. Yeah. When I look at guys like him and Pidcock, and I think San Remo this year is going to be super exciting. Just watching the performances from all these guys. Pidcock was great. He's had a fantastic season already. But looking towards what's coming up, the first monument, like, of course, today is a standout. But look at it and go, like, it's not going to be easy to drop those guys the way they're going. Even Ghana, someone like that could be a huge... he could upset the uppercut big time at San Remo. So it's going to be an exciting weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. What do you think about the Paris-Nice, the top guys there? It was amazing to see Sheffield come back and win yesterday. That was an impressive win. He's had a lot of ups and downs in his career. Still so young. I can't believe he's still only 22. He's been around for quite a few years, and won Brabantse Pijl and Tour of Denmark stage. Was involved in that crash with Gino Mader when, unfortunately, very tragically, Gino Mader passed away. I think that really affected him mentally for a few years. Plus, he had a concussion. Now he's come back, and he's still only 22. And the way he rode away with Jorgensen chasing, couldn't really close down on him. I think that was really exciting to see. You know, cycling is such a hard sport, and it's great to see riders come back from adversity. What do you think about that final day in Nice, and also Visma's performance with Jorgensen?
Yeah, I think, well, if you look at it, you go, he was left a little bit isolated on the last day, but, you know, what's his first, you know, he's got so much confidence. I think he just took the race by the scruff of the neck himself and just said, I'll do it by myself, you know, and if you can follow me, good luck. So I think, you know, it was a huge move by Magnus to ride away, and obviously showing great legs. I think his form is, you know, to survive that final day like the way he did, and to win on, I would call him home roads for those boys because they live there in Nice. So he would have known those roads really well. But yeah, that performance is you know, very, very big performance, I think, especially in the final day. And it was a tough day. And it was like lined out. You see when Visma doesn't have any teammates, where they're a very well-rounded team, you've got to know that day was must have been a tricky and very hard day. But then you look at Jorgensen and he just bosses it. He just basically just says, all right, well, I'll do it by myself. I'll drop everyone, rode past different groups. He's clearly got the form to do it. And, you know, very deserved winner of Paris-Nice. But then, like, you didn't even have Vingegaard there. You know, had Vingegaard been there, I would have liked to have seen that dynamic play out. Would it have just been, he would have been in domestic mode, or would it be, you know, it must be such a difficult situation to be in when you know you're actually so good, and then are you helping, or are you, you know, like, oh. So for Jorgensen, I think Vingegaard will still have many chances this year. So I think it was really nice to see him, you know, get his chance to shine again and, you know, repeat the victory from last year.
It was a little strange to me to see Vingegaard attack Jorgensen on the day when it got really cold and neutralized. You know, you have UAE there, but yet you have your teammate attacking you in yellow and riding away. It's kind of reminded me a little bit of the Vuelta with Sepkus and Roglic and that whole controversial where they were all racing each other. And to me, that didn't sit that well to see Vingegaard being the one to attack, you know, when you had still UAE guys there, attack his own teammate in the yellow jersey. Did you see that, Dave? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I think it's difficult to say because you know, you're not in that team meeting before the start to say, like, we're all in for Jonas, you know. Maybe that was the tactic, maybe that was their play, and for, you know, Jorgensen just to sit it out. But yeah, it's difficult because you've got guys that have, like, won at the level of the Tour de France, and obviously they might be thinking, like, look, we need to get confidence back into Jonas, like, you know, winning a stage like Paris-Nice, you know, then the stage race like that, you kind of feel like mentally you go into the next race is feeling better about yourself versus like, oh, my teammate actually won, I was third, you know. And also, yeah, I think they're obviously still that Jonas is probably still their overall for general classification for bigger races is still their man, you know, so they probably want to support him as well. It's a very difficult situation, but yeah, they might have just gone, let's see how it works out, and then, you know, the best man win in the end. They would still do the best for Visma Leasebike. They would do the best by the team at the end of the day. But yeah, I've never rated that idea of attacking someone in the yellow jersey if they're in your team. That, to me, seems a bit like, I kind of feel like you haven't given them that chance or that respect yet. But, you know, yeah, it's difficult to say.
Yeah. So let's move on to Milan San Remo, a race you've done maybe 7 times or more. What is it like for somebody who's never raced 300 kilometers, you know, in the World Tour, which is 99% of the people on the planet? Can you give us a little idea of what that race is really like? I mean, you see over 300 kilometers, that looks daunting. It seems like a race of positioning for the Poggio, very tactical, quite dangerous, a lot of fighting. Give us a little insight on what that's like. I mean, you've done it many times.
Yeah, so like San Remo, you go, it's 300 Ks, I mean 290 odd K, and then you've got like a 10K neutral zone where they stop the race, and then everyone has a big pee break in front of all the spectators on the side of the road, which has always been like it's the oddest race. It's like, but it's so like romantic, right? It's just like that doesn't sound very romantic.
You would be arrested in the US if you did that.
Yeah, like it's just a thing, right? Because you've had such a long neutral, and everyone like they stop the race again, and it's just like the oddest thing ever. And there's like guys obviously need to go before the race starts, and it's a weird start, but and it's so weird because you come from like Milan there where there's like huge crowds, and it's like, wow, this is epic, and then you just like stop next to this like little like canal, and then they stop the race again neutral, and then it starts. But it starts really fast, the first say 10k or so, until a break established. Either a break goes straight off that, and it's like a long boring day, because it's like you've got 300k to chase these guys, and it does. The break goes out, and the first couple Ks is super easy after that breakaway is gone. But the race only really starts getting. I mean, it's just a long, grueling day. It's not a difficult race to finish at all. Like the climbs at the end aren't steep, they're not hard, they're not difficult. The distance is long, but if you're in a big peloton all day, 6.5, 7 hours. It's very doable. It's not unachievable. But the part that gets the race that just gets faster and faster and faster and faster. So you start off with like this slow build up, and it's kind of like you're doing this FTP test. It's just like, and you just everything just starts winding out, and the bunch just starts getting narrower and narrower and narrower, because it just gets faster and faster. And as you get along the coast, it just starts becoming more one line, and then it's the fight for position, because once you're getting over the Kappas, like the Kappas are the smallest climbs before Cipressa, and they are nothing climbs. If you went there and you just parked your car and you drove your bike and you rode your bike along the coastline there, you'd be like, what's the big thing? But what you don't understand is that how fast they're going up these hills. It is like it's a fight for position, but it's uphill, twisty, into the next one. The roads are a bit narrow, lots of traffic islands, which automatically lines the peloton out. So position's like super important. And then Cipressa's your first real key point, where you say, if we mess up Cipressa, if we start near the back here, because a lot of guys do sit up on Cipressa, and there's maybe 60, 70 guys. But now what you're seeing is like, obviously guys like today are coming to the race. Other climbers that are trying to win this race, they really got to throttle the race on the Cipressa. But before you hit the Cipressa, you've already been at a threshold. That's the thing. It's not like one effort. Like the Cipressa already starts maybe 20k out. It's like a 30-minute effort, because it's just positioning, fighting, and then you got the Cipressa. So the run into the Cipressa is so difficult to nail. Like, you got to remember that you're 2 lanes wide, but it's packed like sardines. And then you go through like a little town, and then you turn right onto it. If you're position 40, you're still too far back. If someone takes it out from the front, it's so difficult. But, the downhill is tricky after Cipressa. Then you get onto a big road for maybe 10, 15 Ks. And then you got that real squeezing pinch point before the Poggio, which obviously it goes into a hairpin. So, a great spot for somebody to attack, somebody that's in good position. Somebody that's out of position to make up a lot of ground is very difficult, because they're basically sprinting up these hills. It's a sprint. They don't start from the bottom and like wind up at that point. Once you hit the Poggio, it's basically a sprint. And it's just as fast as you can go, bottom to top. Everybody is just either on the wheel, you lose the wheel, you're out. As soon as you get out that slipstream, you're done. There's no like, I'll come back, they'll sit up. It doesn't slow down ever. It never. Maybe you get the front guys who do the 1 or 2 little attacks, and they're sussing it out a little bit. But besides those guys that can move, everybody else is just pinned. There's no like, and when you get dropped, you get dropped. There's no like, I'll come back on the downhill. Once you do the Poggio, the descent there is very hard to make up ground, unless you like a super descender. But even those guys, it's difficult to make up time. And then it's 2K, big right boulevard. If it stops at the bottom there, great opportunity for somebody like a Ghana or someone to go like far. Cancellara's done it in the past. Guys like that, that are still there, that come from behind with a flyer. And then there's no teammates to chase. So if you don't have a teammate to chase, great place for opportunists to have a go. And then you get like the uphill drag to the finish, which is a nothing finish. But after 300 Ks and having that Cipressa, Poggio, all that intensity, that last final hour is probably the most intense bike racing you'll get in the season nearly. because it's so difficult. But that's what makes San Remo so unique, is positioning. But that last hour is just so intense. You don't get that intensity in other races.
Because it hasn't been that tense early on, except a real fight for position. But it's really also, you have to have the ability to be able to conserve energy and position yourself well with your team. That seems to be half the battle, right? Is to arrive there with as little energy spent as possible in those key moments, with your team around you near the front. And really only probably the best teams have the horsepower to bring their riders to that position, right? Like a UAE, who can really position Pogacar at the front on Cipressa if he attacks this year. It seems like the smaller teams probably don't have the horsepower, right? Just to ride on the front, to bring their top guys to the front. It must be quite a battle, or not?
Well, they do. I mean, they do have the horsepower. It's not like UAE just out muscles everyone. They obviously been riding on the front, so they get more respect, I'd say. Every team can get their guy to the front. It's just some teams are just better at doing it. They do it in a calmer sense of not rushing, knowing not to sprint up the side, because if they sprint, the guy they're trying to help is also sprinting. So it's experience. It's experience about guiding your guys into position and using it in the most cost-effective manner. Sometimes you can. I've done run into Cipressa before, where I've hardly touched the pedals. I've just been in the pocket in a great position just by I'm here. The team that's pulling is not even my teammates, but you've just found yourself oh, how good is this? We're not even burning teammates. Somebody else is doing it for us, and you're actually thinking. And then I've also been the other side, out of position before the Cipressa, trying to move up, and I'm just sprinting, and I'm still trying to look after someone, but trying to do it in an effective manner. But eventually, we're in so much trouble. Yeah, we need to sprint. You know what I mean? And you can really cock that run up big time. So that's what it's very, very hard to nail. And those are the parts of San Remo that makes it so difficult, because you get it right, you're fine. You get it wrong, you're sprinting and paying the price, and there's nowhere to move, and you got traffic when you turn up the climb because everyone's set up, they've done a great job, they're getting in the way. The front guys are already going, they're already sprinting, so
and
it's such a fine line.
But that descent also looks pretty crazy. Remember the year when who was it, Moritz, who rode away on the descent, right, with the dropper post? I mean, you have to be a really good descender as well to win that race. If you attack off the front on the Poggio,
you're going to be an all-round bike rider. I mean, the San Remo is funny because it's one of the only races where everybody focuses on every single detail too. From the start line, you'll see everyone's super aero. They got their thing because they think 300k, save something, even though the time can be the same as another classic. But it's just so weird because San Remo's got this special love to it, coming along the coastline, you really need to save energy and not spend any energy, and everyone's stopping for a pee together, and they're doing it in the cars, and they're in the cars forever because it's easier. Whereas other races, they just go past the car, they spend a bit more energy than what they have to. But San Remo's everyone's got it in their head it's this process of saving for two big efforts. Because they know it's warp speed. It's weird. Everyone thinks in a different manner. I remember the first time doing San Remo, and it was which Italian rider could rock up with the most clothing on. It's it's ear warmers and buffs and jackets and tights and everything. I was whoa, what are these guys? Wow, this is a big day, But it's any other race. But you're just why do we come here? And it's and it was always the hot shots, hey, I'm only gonna take off my gear when the race gets hot. And then when you get down to the coastline after Turquino and that 150, then it'll be this big epic strip off, watch me take my jacket off, and then the guy will take his leg warmers off and get his teammates to drop it in the cars, and it's just but other races it doesn't happen. But San Remo's got this thing. You'll see probably this year. You'll see guys rocking up start line buffs and. Okay, sometimes it can be cold. I've done some terrible races there too, in the snow and everything, which you don't wish upon anyone. But yeah, it's a great race. It's super interesting race because there's so many guys who can win.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Last year we saw Philipsen win in a sprint. He beat Matthews. Matthews was close to that win. That's a former teammate of yours. Today still got third after attacking up the Poggio. There was an impressive ride last year. We had Pedersen fourth, who we spoke about now in Paris-Nice, who's looking really good. Bettiol, he was fifth last year, and he's a guy who performs on the big day sometimes. I mean, he's won Flanders. And we also had Moritz, who was sixth, Van Gils was seventh, Stavent eighth, Alaphilippe ninth, and so those were the top 8 last year. Who are you thinking for this year? I know we have some big hitters this year as usual. We have most of the top guys except for Wout. Who are your favourites for this year?
Oh, look, I think you can still count Van der Poel in there. Van der Poel's, he's going to be a big dog. You can have Ghana if he gets it right. He can pack a massive sprint as well. Very strong. Some of that stands out. I think Pedersen would be someone that I could go. Like, put it this way: I wouldn't be surprised if he won. Like, I'd be like, the way he's going, the way he's motivated to do well. Michael Matthews is always good here. It's like also home roads, also got a love for the race. It's one of those races that's like eluded him. He's someone that also rises to the occasion. He's always there, So yeah, I think I'm going to go with Pedersen would be my pick for. If I was going to say that guy, apart from like Tadej or someone who's like that, most people are going to say, oh, he's going to win or he's going to ride away in Cipressa or whatever. But it'd be interesting to see the tactic they use, because like last year they tried to smash it up the Cipressa and they were going warp speed, but you can only go as fast as you can go. Like, there's only one guy who can make a difference up there, and that's Tadej. If he goes on the Cipressa, then we're going to see what's going to happen. Like, maybe he makes 20 seconds, 30 seconds, he can hold off the peloton, because he's the only guy who I think can actually make that difference up there.
How long is that climb, and how steep is it?
I think it's about 3Ks, if I'm not mistaken, but it gets flatter near the top as well, so it's super easy to sit on the wheel there. Not easy, but, if you're on the wheel, somebody that's really good, they're not struggling. So I think he has to make the difference there, because the Poggio is it's almost too short. And last year he went from the bottom too, and you just see guys are on his wheel, they're there, everyone can do a great 5 minutes, those guys are so strong in that regard. But I can't see him riding away easily. I can see it being awesome to watch and witness, but I don't think he's I just think the course isn't hard enough for him. That's what I kind of think.
Do you think, what about sprinters? We saw that last year with coming down to a sprint. We saw Van der Poel lead out Philipsen. Philipsen won in the end. Do you think a rider like Milan could make it over the Poggio? He's quite a good climber for such a big guy.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think sorry, I forgot what you said there. I lost.
Yeah, Jonathan Milan. I'm wondering if you think...
Oh, Milan, I think...
and also your old buddy Caleb, who you were teammates with. I mean, I think he's racing, right? Is that one of his first races with Ineos?
Yeah, I think. Look, it'd be lovely to see Caleb get up there. I'm not sure if I haven't got the start list, but he physically he can do it. He has the ability. Look, he's had some time off from racing. So without doing too much racing, I'm not too sure. Don't really have a benchmark, but I think Milan, of course, also he physically is able to do it. We can see the sprinters doing it. I mean, Philipsen, of course, he's probably the most all-round sprint out of those guys that still packs the biggest punch. I mean, you wouldn't put it past Philipsen doubling up, It'll be interesting because, I just, it's amazing to see how these sprinters can just turn themselves inside out. On a race, if this climb was in another race and they went up the same speed, all those guys would be dropped. But because it's Milan San Remo, and they just got this ability to suffer like anything. So, I think it would depend on how the Cipressa is ridden. If there's a real big surge from today up the Cipressa, which really gets maybe the 15 best bike riders, and they try to sort it up the Poggio, then do I think a guy like Philipsen or whatever has got the chance to be in that mix? I'm not too sure. But if it's all waiting for the Poggio, like it was last year, I can see it being a sprint like in the previous year.
Today also he hasn't raced since Strade Bianche. He had quite a big crash there. Philipsen, he hasn't raced either. He's, I think, doing Nokere Corsa, which is a Belgian race coming here on Wednesday. That'll be a good test for him. But some of the big favorites really haven't done the Tirreno or Paris-Nice, so that's going to be interesting. It'll depend a lot on if today's recovered. I mean, that looked like a pretty serious crash that he had in Strade. He'll be using his aero bike. They claim 20-watt gain with that new Colnago over the other Colnago. I don't know if that's true, but that's a lot. If you think about him off the front going solo, I saw some videos of him doing track testing with that bike, testing his aero road position on the track. So I think they're really thinking ahead, really trying to optimize, because he's such a breakaway specialist, to really optimize the aerodynamic piece for him. So that'll be interesting, because I think if he does get a gap on suppressor, obviously he's going to be very hard to chase down. But if the field is still big, I think it'll be hard to stay away.
Yeah, it'll also be down to who's in that group behind, right? And how willing they are to cooperate with each other. If it's a big group and there's not enough teammates, or if there's one from each team only, then it's like you're gonna have 5 guys sitting on and Tadej's up the road, then it's gonna favor him. If the race is really select, and you've got, like, I don't know, a Pidcock, Van der Poel, or someone chasing behind, a Nagana, say for example, they could bring it back if they all work together. But it's going to depend on that mix. It's going to depend on that mix that's behind to really define whether a guy like Tadej can be caught. But that's if he goes early. Sometimes you might just go, listen, put all my bets on one climb, and let's just... Maybe they don't even go that hard up Cipressa, and they just go, let's use all those numbers up the Poggio. Who knows?
Yeah.
It could be like, okay, no, last year there was too much of a lull between the two climbs that everyone recovered a little bit too much, and maybe this year they just go, let's go up there. But there's not only those guys in the race. Let's give respect to all the other guys that are out there. There's plenty of guys there that can also try right away, try something new, and we've seen it. Like Pidcock had a go at Strade, and I wouldn't put it past guys like Pedersen and all of those guys trying to think of a different way to win.
So to your top
world
three,
champion, and he's the benchmark, and of course he's the rider of the moment. But there's a lot of those guys. What people forget is a lot of those guys are winners too. They're not all thinking, "Oh, I'm happy with second," especially at Milan San Remo.
Yeah, and I think it's the hardest race to win, just because of the way you described how it goes, being flat, fast, positioning is key. So I think it's the hardest race for Tadej to win out of all the races, the one-day races that he's going for.
Yeah, sure. It's the trickiest one to nail.
So your top three, I know you said Pedersen for the win. Do you have a second and third podium?
Pedersen, I don't know.
I'm thinking, why not Pidcock? That would be amazing, right? Pidcock, with his descending skills and how he's riding, I'll go with him for the win. Well, I'll give you some time to think of yours top three. Van der Poel second, and let's say Tadej third. What about you?
No, I think it'll be like a Pedersen, Philipsen, then who could be like, and then maybe like a Tadej third again, because you just have the legs just to sprint still.
Yeah, and the women, this is, I believe, I think they did have a version of Milan San Remo many years ago, but I think this is the first monument for women on the same day as the men for Milan San Remo. So that's also very exciting for the women. Do you have any thoughts there? Any favorites for the women's race?
The good part for them is that they're not doing well. They don't do the Turkino and that boring first 100k before the Turkino, so they're actually pretty lucky. They start in Genoa and then just kind of they're just going to go out to straight along the coastline and follow the men's route. So they're doing all the Kappas, all the Cipressa, all the Poggio. So it'd be interesting to see the dynamic there, how they race that. Do they look at how the men have raced it in the past, or how's that going to unfold? I think they've got so many different riders who can, win from far out, win from sprints. Some teams that obviously don't have they don't actually have the years on experience to trial different things. So it'll be interesting to see how they all how they tackle this race. Like do they come up with a different approach or a different way to try win San Remo, or is it the same script? But Joe,
Yeah, that will
there's
be.
like Anna van Bruggen, we spoke about her last time. She'll be one that's, maybe this is the breakthrough she wants. Maybe this is the time she actually just comes through and just says, okay, I've been out for 3 seasons. Here you go. I win San Remo.
We also have, I think, Lotte Kopecky. She hasn't really raced much this year, but I imagine she's racing. I haven't seen the start list. She's always an incredible one-day racer.
I think all the best women are going to be there this weekend. This is what women's cycling has been after. This is, and it's great they're starting to get their like real spot in doing all these big races, because I think for them it's over the years that have passed they've missed these opportunities, but now I think what they'll be doing when they get these opportunities is they'll be all coming there, like everybody, like when you saw the Tour de France avec femmes, I forgot how to say it.
Avec Zwift, I think.
Avec swims, yeah.
Zwift, yeah.
Yeah. The Tour de France. It was all the best were there. All the best riders were there. They get behind it, and that's what I think they're going to be doing at a lot of these bigger races now. Is that they're going to be getting behind it, showing their support for these races, and they're going to be coming with a field that's so strong, and it's going to make it so exciting that it's not going to be like, oh, this one's at home, this one's there. They all want to be the first ones to win these races because they're all new on the calendar. I mean, how cool is that you can say like, oh, I won Milan San Remo, first one ever, or so I think we're going to have a great field.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I wonder if Pauline, now a road rider, top best mountain bike racer the last many years, Olympic champion, world champion, now she's switched to the road. She got third in Strada. And, what a rider she is. That'll be exciting to see if she's racing, how she does. Demi Vollering, I'm sure, will be attacking on the Suppressor with Anna van der Breggen. And again on the Poggio, trying to break the race up. So, yeah, it's going to be a really exciting race.
Yeah, and then you'll get the Italians too, Elisa Longoborghini, Balsamo, all of those. I mean, the passion that they're going to have for like a big monument home race with so much history. Of course, you'd want to win that. So you can bet that they'll find an extra gear as well there.
Good stuff. All right, I think we'll wrap it up. If you guys are enjoying these podcasts, please leave us some comments. We're thinking of doing this more regularly. If you have any ideas for names, we're also looking to come up with a cool name for the podcast. With Daryl and I discussing racing, also some coaching stuff. So yeah, please leave some comments and let us know if you like this, and we'll do some more. Anything you would like to say, Daryl, before we end up?
No, you've covered it all, mate. I think we've been rattling about a name or an idea. It doesn't have to be cycling related. It might be something else, I said the two has-beens, because we've both been has-beens.
Yeah, the two has-beens. What about, what was the other name we came up with? Beer and Fritz, eh?
Yeah, Beer and Fritz.
Yeah.
I think it's, I could see myself listening to myself with a beer and
some Fritz.
Fritz.
Yeah, that's what, when you're in Belgium, that's all you do. You sit at the, in the bar, you have your beer, your Fritz, and you talk like we're talking right now. It might be a good name. Guys, let us know what you think. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll probably see you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Bye.